של האי שכן שוק עבדים מהגדולים במזרח אפריקה עד לפני 130 שנה. כל יום שישי הייתה מתקיימת במקום מכירה פומבית של בני אדם. מכאן התחיל המסע של עבדים רבים, שבחלק מהמקרים הסתיים במזרח התיכון.
But the chain you see down there is original chain. That is the chain you are using to tie the slave around the neck, one by one together for the one chain, from 1831 to 1873. "75 people keep here. The slave kept down here for 3 days. Without water, without food, just to test how strong they were. So a lot of them is dead for suffocation, starvation, the terrible of disease. Because long term is no light, is a small window. So end the light you're getting from the window there. Sometimes children, you taking the water from down here, you can drink. Every day is dead for disease.
עיד אומרת אם היה אומר גם היה לבנים היה קצת מנחם אותה.
مبهدلينهم في أول زمانهم يا ويلاتي، تاجروا فيهم في المسار، يسووا قصور ويسووا دنيا على حساب الواحد حتى بدأ يعرف يشك في حاله أكثر من أي قرنة. مرة نزعل ومرة نفرح، مرة نزعل على الصمت.
Quote I always use to open the discussions, it says, it's a book I read about slavery, and it says, for every gallon of ink that was shed describing the Western slave road to the Americas, not even a drop was used to describe the Eastern slave road. And that is the real story, because you know so much about Amistad and whatever you want, Roots and Alex Haley, Spielberg and all, etc., etc., etc. But on the other side of Africa, for 1,000 years, there was a slave road, even before Islam, to the Arab countries. When I decided to make the film, after working with the women about 1.5 years on short films, I came up to them and told them, look, I think it's very important that we make a film together about this community, about the Afro-Bedouin community. Learn your history. And they were very reluctant at first, but nobody left.
זה תמונות לא קלות.
First, we interviewed Majid. It was the first time somebody talked about discrimination.
יש סטיגמה שלילית על הקהילה השחורה, כי
הסטיגמה הזאת כאילו לא מבוססות, בוא נגיד, כאילו רק ככה.
And he was very careful too, and he said, yes, we're discriminated, they think we're thugs, they think we're delinquents, they think we don't work, that we're lazy. And after that, I told the girls, next week I want you to bring interviews about your families. Go out with the equipment and interview somebody from your family. And a week afterwards was the watershed of the film. If you remember the scene with the girl with the tea cake. And she said, I'm holding a tea cake which the white people call a slave head, ras abed. And from then on, that was the watershed of the film. From that scene on, everything just opened because they looked around and they say, if she can talk about it, I can talk about it too, and I have a story. And that's how things started. Generally speaking, the relationship between Bedouins and Jewish Israelis is deteriorating all the time due to, especially to poverty and discrimination. I mean, when you don't have a lot of chances of life, when you don't have jobs, when you don't have basic things, and you look to your neighbor and you see that he has everything, crime happens and things like that. Not only with Bedouins, I mean, Israel as a country is becoming more and more capitalistic, and whoever is weak, it doesn't matter if he's a Bedouin or an Ethiopian Jew or anything else, the weak people are getting trampled on. And this is the situation we're living in, which is getting worse and worse as we go on. The Bedouins have always been loyal people in Israel. A lot of them serve in the army, and they're still treated in a very disgraceful manner. It's not only them, it's the Druze, it's the Palestinians in Israel. It's a big problem. It doesn't refer only to Bedouins. And as I said before, it's a problem of class in Israel. I think that's the big problem. Less and less people are getting rich, and more people are getting poor, and it doesn't matter what race they are or what religion they are. That's a growing problem. It's not specific about this film, but in general. And every interaction, even when I come to Rat and do something, or they come to Tel Aviv and show the film, or they go to somewhere else and show the film, and they're able to talk and lecture, and people see, it breaks stereotypes. But in generally speaking, we have two separate realities, parallel realities now of Arabs and Jews, and you can see it, for instance, in the internet. Every time there's some article about Arabs, you can see the talkbacks by Jewish extremists, which are crazy. I mean, there's a lot of hatred. The situation is very tense and very racist, and it's something that it wasn't before at this extent. And working together is very important in that manner, because a lot of people are surprised. Why, you're going to Rat by yourself? You're not afraid? You know, it's something, you sit in their houses, you know, they're all thieves, you know, they're all, juvenile delinquents. What are you doing there? So every discourse, everything, every interaction between Jews and Arabs is important. I think the thing is to learn and know and see that there are people who are still suffering from discrimination. And from the reactions I got through the link broadcasts of the film, I got amazing reactions by Afro-Americans. A lot of people wrote to me and want to be in contact with the girls. It was very funny. This guy wrote to me, I don't know if it's funny, it's cynical. He says, he's a professor, and he says, I want to write an article now, and I want to call it, if Malcolm X would make a second pilgrimage to Mecca, I want to be his guide. Because, as you know, Malcolm X went to Mecca and he wrote how everything was equal and how everything was, and he was accepted as equal, and the reality is, to some extent, is different. As I said before, this film is not criticizing the Quran or the Islamic religion, but there are certain things you can learn from it about what happened in the other side of Africa.